Political complacency is a privilege reserved for those who have the luxury of not needing to care. It looks like the US starting wars and never bothering to pick up the pieces. It looks like states passing xenophobic policy and ignoring the families it leaves behind. And yes, it looks like allowing our environment to wilt away while we deny the severity of the problem. In a time when we are literally killing our planet, we've lost the privilege to wait and must implement carbon taxes and renewable energy immediately. Now, the problem with climate change needs no introduction. We saw the IPCC report giving us a code red if no action is taken to limit carbon emissions now. In Illinois alone, we've seen increasingly harsh thunderstorms and hail circulate. Just 2 years ago, I was a tornado touchdown away from losing my entire house because of climate-induced freak weather. The buck stops now, and we must put away the bickering to solve the problem. So first, let's establish the scope and the degrees we must consider to solve our problems and achieve our goals. The financial degree, do we have the money? The intellectual, do we have the technology? And the bureaucratic, do we have the accountability? Let's consider the financial. How will we make the money? We must begin reinvesting in renewables to offset the costs created by carbon taxes. But we are in luck. According to the International Institute for Sustainable Development, renewables are so close to being competitive that a 10 to 30% subsidy swap tips the balance and turns them from being a slow growing technology to one of the most viable. Keep that in mind. Just a swap with fossil fuel subsidies will allow renewable to grow so much. It's a win-win. The average American is dependent on fossil fuels, but that's in large part because of their subsidies. Switching our subsidies resets our priorities, and seen by the recent success of Tesla, we can absolutely take advantage of our opportunities to seize renewables. But how do we get the technology? Well, we've solved this problem by being able to engage in intellectual property sharing under the Paris Climate Accords. When President Biden rejoined, we've allowed innovation on a global scale, which will reduce renewable prices, which we can move on to once again, and finally get rid of our primary emittances. So let's address the bureaucratic. How will we enforce renewable energy while also carbon taxes? Well, by enforcing renewable subsidies, we reduce the lobbying power of big oil and coal companies that have thus far prevented any action. Now, both through top-level enforcement of the Paris Accords and mid-level enforcement through Congress, we can step up grant opportunities to push through a win-win scenario of us investing in renewables. Complacency, as we've seen, has bred failure with fossil fuels. So let's take the time to reverse the failure by investing in renewables to both correct the problems of carbon emissions and to allow energy efficiency for the average American to increase.